What is going on, everybody? My name is Juan Cristales. I'm a full-time real estate investor in the Texas market. I build duplexes ground up. And I think that one of the biggest challenges that I had when I first started into new construction was that I was willing to pay people to teach me, but you know how many people actually wanted to teach me? Zero. And so I had to learn a lot of this stuff on my own, make a lot of mistakes. And now that I have quite a bit of experience, I've got 5 years worth of experience in new construction. I'm happy to teach you guys and show you. Here, what I'm going to show you next is a set of blueprints that I have for a duplex that I've built here in the Texas market, and I'm going to give it to you absolutely free. All you have to do is join my free school community. I'm going to put the link down below. Thanks so much for watching. Now check it out. All right, guys, so here's the basic what the duplex is going to be looking like. On the first page here, all we have is going to be the footprint. And so here you just have a little bit of information basically dealing with the square footage of the property and what it's going to look like. We are looking at a total width of about 39 feet and 6 inches, and then as deep wise it's about 64.5 feet. And the reason we do this is because our lots require us to have a minimum of 5-foot building setbacks on the sides. Okay. In the middle here, we have this partition wall or a party wall or a firewall. There's many, many names that it goes by, and it's going to be basically delineated on one of the pages there. These sets of duplexes are going to be 3 bedrooms, 2 bath each side. So as you come in, very, very basic, you have the entrance here. You have a coat closet. You have the kitchen right here. As soon as you are in the kitchen, you also kind of share the living area right there. So it's open concept. You come in, you have the utility room right there. Come in to the right, you have a bedroom and then another bedroom, the hall bathroom, which is going to be tub, toilet, and sink. And then you come into the master bedroom here. The master bedroom has its own tub, toilet, and sink, and then a small walk-in closet. And it's the same thing, mirror on the opposite side. Very, very simple concept. I love this duplex. We keep building it. We are continuing to refine our product so that we can get a good quality duplex built for an efficient amount of money. Okay, so on this next page, basically we have a little bit of information detailing what the firewall is supposed to look like. Again, consult with your local code jurisdiction and what they want you to do. And basically, here's what it looks like for the front elevation, the rear elevation, left and right hand side. I'm going to point out a couple of things here in the front that we have now since changed. These windows here in the front are going to be 6-foot windows, and then all the other windows are going to be 5-foot high. So these are 3-foot by 6-foot windows. They cost a little bit more. They make a little bit bigger statement, and the front of the property basically is broken up. So if you notice here, the party wall basically goes right down the middle here, and it separates the 2 units. But we do this little thing like this just to kind of break it up so it doesn't look like a duplex. All right, so now let's move on to the next page. We have the electrical plan view. Basically where the fans go, where the electricity goes, where the extractor goes in the wet areas like the utility room and the bathroom, so on and so forth. The next one here is the plumbing. And it's going to show you basically where the some of the plumbing stuff goes, like this kitchen sink. We have, the bathrooms, the utility rooms, all that kind of stuff. And then we move on here to some of the structural stuff for the roof plan view, the framing ceiling plan view, which is a requirement for structural. So I want you guys to understand something, that everything that we do is through the city. So we pull permits for everything. Everything has to be done to code. And so some of these plans, whenever you use these plans, you're going to need several people. The first person you're going to need is going to be an architect to basically take this exact same thing. He's probably going to change 1 or 2 things so he doesn't like copy the exact same thing, but it's cool because he's not starting from scratch and you're not starting from scratch. It makes it easier and more cost efficient for you. Okay, so take this plan, take it to the architect, say, hey man, this guy gave me permission to use it. He said just, maybe change a window, maybe change something so that it's not the exact same thing, and then it should be fine. Okay, now, once the architect has done that, then the structural engineer is going to get involved. And the structural engineer basically shows, you see how you see all these pink lines right here, basically showing you the ceiling joist view. Here we have the building setbacks. Now, this is the site plan. So if you notice here on the very front of the property, I'm going to zoom in just a little bit so that you guys are on the same sheet as I am, and so you guys understand what I'm referring to here. There's a 20-foot, there's a 25-foot building setback in the front. Now, yes, I know that this one says 18. We had to modify this and push it a little bit back to actually 25, which is okay. We made that update. Okay, so you need to know from your local building jurisdiction how much they will allow you to set back. Now, we have a 5-foot building setback here for us, but we're at 7 foot 0.28, so we are more than enough past the area where it needs to be. And then in the very back, we had a 10-foot building setback, so we have plenty of space back here for a yard and whatever else we're going to be doing here. Okay, so that's basically the site plan. Now, one of the things I'm going to point out at the site plan here is the basically, you know, it says here 12 inches minimum above center of the street. So wherever the foundation is, okay, the foundation form, the top where the concrete actually sits, one of the things that is required is that it has to be 12 inches above the crest of the road in the front. So imagine if the road is right here in the front, this flat area here, when the concrete gets poured, has to be at least 12 inches above that. That's kind of a new code requirement, especially here where we are in Texas, where it does tend to flood. Next, we have the foundation plan. As you can see here, the foundation plans are actually stamped by a structural engineer. This guy basically, you know, reviews everything. We do get soil samples that we send over to this guy. He reviews it, and based off that information and the structure that we're going to be putting on there, he says this is what it will take. And so he gives us dimensions and widths and how deep these footings need to be. And what we're doing is post-tension cables. So these little triangles that are pointing up and pointing to the right, those are actual cables. If you look right here in this little area, you will have more information to kind of help you with what that stuff looks like. Cable list and elongation chart is very clearly outlined here, and then you have basically the beam width, the beam depth, and that's based off of the soils report. Okay, it's not just some willy-nilly number that got pulled out of whatever, and it basically gives you the information there and gives you an idea of how much concrete you're going to be using right there. Moving on, if I can get this thing to zoom out. We have a lot of foundation general notes, and you guys can knock your socks off and read all that stuff. It's very good information, actually, if you get into it, start reading it. This chart here basically tells the foundation guys what the structure needs to look like for the foundation, okay, where the cables need to be going and all the other stuff. For what we're doing here, we mostly use 1, 2, and 3. These additional drawings and designs for more complex structures, we're not really using any of these ones here, 9 through 16. But, you know, that's just a little bit different. Next, we have the Manual J. The Manual J basically does calculations for how much cubic feet of air conditioning space is going to be inside of this unit. Now, let me go up to the very, very front, and why this is important is because here we have 9-foot ceilings. I'm going to show you here where it says 9-foot ceilings. You see here it says 9-foot ceilings. It says right there 9-foot ceilings. So all this stuff is going to be 9-foot ceilings. So that adds more air-conditioned space that needs to be done. And so the civil engineer, that's the third person you need. That's different from the structural. So quick recap, you're going to need an architect, you're going to need a structural engineer, and then you're going to need a civil engineer to basically do some of these calculations on what is going to be used. So we have the location of where the little ducts are going to be finishing up, coming out of the attic, where the machine's going to be going, where the furnace is going to be going, all that information, the type of ducts that's going to be used. And then we have here basically this is going to be the load information, the load analysis information for the electrical. Now, I am not an expert in this stuff, guys. We give these plans to the master licensed electrician, the master licensed air conditioning guy, and the master licensed plumber. They're the ones who are able to kind of figure this stuff out. They're the ones who have to stand inspection, and they're the ones who have to pass it. Okay. Now, the next one here is going to be the plumbing plan. We are talking about wastewater. So this is basically how the water is going to be drained out for, the tub, the toilet, the sink, and basically how they unite. We have 2-inch pipes coming out, and then they're getting close to a 4-inch pipe, as you can see right there. And so on and so forth, coming through all the way. So if you notice here, one of the things I want to point out is that These systems are completely independent of each other. So you never have any of the wastewater from one unit mixing with the other one. They both come out in their own independent paths, and that's a part of the requirement for a duplex. And then, of course, we have the plumbing riser. This is going to be just, just a kind of a three-dimensional type view of all the wastewater and how it comes out, and just gives you an idea of what the plumber is going to be doing for the types of piping that's going to be using. So we have a vent, a 2-inch vent that goes up to the, the ceiling or the attic and into the roof. And then we have a sanitary pipe, and then we have another vent here. So basically it's going to be the tub, the toilet, and the sink. And then we have the washer and dryer, right? Oh, I'm sorry, just the washing machine. The dryer doesn't need any wastewater, but we do, that's where it's going to be located for the washing machine, for the utility room. So you see how it's a 2-inch, it connects to a 3-inch, and then it connects to a 4-inch clean out. This is the stuff that the city's going to want to see, that we've thought about this stuff, and so we move on. Next one's going to be the domestic water plant. Here we have hot water and cold water, and basically what that whole plan looks like. If you can see here, basically this is going to be the water heater in the attic, and then basically the blue line is going to be obviously for cold water, the red line is going to be for black. And as you can see here, we had to modify this. So here's something that I'll tell you guys that a lot of people don't really think about whenever it comes to new construction and long-term maintenance. Okay, so a lot of the stuff that we're doing is we're building to rent, so we're keeping these duplexes. So we want to make it easy for ourselves in the future if we want to do any maintenance on these duplexes. And so what that means is that here, for example, the reason why I've turned, if you notice, I've turned over, you see how the clean water service is here and the clean water service is opposite. Initially he had it right here. And I'm like, bro, if we have to do any repairs to the tub, we're going to have to take off siding. We have to take off insulation, take off like whatever stuff is in there to try to access that. And that's just not realistic. So let's put it on an interior wall. So all we have to do is tear out a little bit of sheetrock right here. And then we have an access panel so that we can go ahead and repair anything that's going on with the tub. Because the tub, normally you have either tile or you have like, those... what is that stuff? The hard plastic stuff. I can't remember the name of it right now, but that stuff that's just, very, very fiberglass. So you can't cut into that and then put it back. It's not gonna be right. You're destroying it by doing that. So you have to go around the backside if you want to destroy the tile or you don't want to destroy the fiberglass. And so because of that, you want to have access through it on an interior wall so that that doesn't become a problem for you later. Okay. Now, the toilet, if you have a problem with the toilet, then you can just remove the whole toilet and that's not going to be a big deal because you'll have access to the clean lines there. And then here on the sink, you can work underneath it, right? Open up the cabinet, you can work underneath the sink. It's not going to be a big issue. The one that's always an issue is going to be the tub, and that's why they are basically pointing the other direction. Now, moving on here, basically we have the rest of the other stuff. And it looks good. Let's see here what else we have going on. This is just basically another view, a three-dimensional view of what the domestic water riser plan looks like. And that's really it, guys. I mean, that's all the stuff that you need for a full set of plans. These are the ones that we submitted to the city, and they review all of this stuff. And then basically at some point, they're just like, okay, this is good to go. And we are going to approve them. They stamp them, and then they give them to you. And you essentially work off of this for the entire thing. This is the biggest, most important part of any new construction project, is getting the plan correctly in place. Now, again, like I said, you can take this plan, take it to your architect. He's going to modify just one or two things so it's not the exact same plan. Like, look, just tell him, look, you see this closet, it's a double door, make it a single door. Boom, it's a completely new set of plans. But the benefit of it is that he doesn't have to start from scratch. That is the benefit. He's got dimensions, he's got room size, like where everything's located. It's very, very simple. It's a shotgun style. It's a rectangle, basically. If you look at this here, it's just a rectangle, guys. It's nothing that is too crazy that you really need to, freak out about. It's a very simple build. And once you have the set of plans completed by the architect, you take that to the engineer for the structural. That's the second person you need, the structural engineer. He's going to need soil samples so he can design the foundation. And then after that, you go through the civil engineer so he can do the isometric plans, which is going to be the water and all the other stuff, and the manual J for the air conditioning, and then the electrical plan, all the other stuff, okay? Very, very simple 3-step process. Get that stuff done. I'm happy that you guys are participating. Please continue to do so. Thanks so much for watching. I'll talk to you soon.